What is up, guys? Welcome back to Flow State. We are here, myself, Luke, with my wonderful co-host, Mr. Adam Smith, and we are on episode 16 today. We've just been chatting a bit off air about how our weeks have gone, and we're both loving life at the moment, getting back into some solid training post-marathon, and both enjoying the weather, seemingly, even though it's kind of moving in opposite directions from Northern Ireland to Australia. But yeah, as always, we just want to say thank you because we, again, notice that every week we're getting a multitude of people message or kind of speak to us personally, telling us how much they love the podcast and find value in it, which is obviously why we do it. So thank you to everyone that is taking the time to watch, share, follow, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. It is very, very much appreciated. But look, with that due diligence out of the way, let's start our first segment, which look, at the end of the day is kind of a segment now. We always do weather chat with Luke and Adam. And I feel like that's a really good way to break the ice and get the conversation flowing, man. So tell me what is happening. It looks pretty nice there in Northern Ireland this morning.
Yes, mate. Good speaking to you. Yep, it's beautiful once again. Like we said last week, we're always chatting about the weather, and it wasn't even forecast to be nice this morning, but I was up early, got out for a bit of a short walk, and sun splitting the stones. So can't ask for much more. Now I have checked the forecast for the next week, and it's not looking too good. So stay tuned for that next week. But no, it's been great, mate. The weather's been class. And once again, I don't think I've had the longer trousers on me over the last week. It's been shorts every day. So, what about you, mate? How's the
What kind
weather
of
down under?
just quickly, what kind of temperatures are we talking? Because every time we check in, I can see the sun, as you said, is splitting the stones, and that is my new favorite phrase as well. But are we talking? Have we broken 20 yet, or are we still kind of like late mid teens?
Yeah, there's been a couple of days. There's been a couple of days over the last couple of weeks. It's been 21, 22, up to maybe 23 at most. I think most days it's hovering around like 18 to 19 midday. But it's still May, mate, and we tend to get the best weather over June. I've also heard again, someone might someone might just say this is completely wrong, but someone told me over the last week that apparently the farmers here have told us that we're going to get a nice summer. So I
Mm.
have no idea how the farmers know, but maybe there's something that the cows tell them that maybe they can't tell us. So apparently we're
Honestly,
getting a nice summer.
I feel like, especially in Ireland, a lot of UK, there's a lot of farmers, and here at Flow State, we're a podcast of the people. So in farmers we trust, and I'm going to put my complete absolute faith that it's going to be a good summer in lovely Northern Ireland. So thank you, farmers, and
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully we see our following increase
Well, last
rapidly
year
now.
we're targeting a completely different audience now.
Exactly.
But last summer was awful. July, August last year was. I remember July. It pretty much rained every day and was miserable. We tend to get the nice weather late May into June, and then we tend to get a nice spell in September. So hopefully we can get a nice summer this year. Just when you mentioned farmers as well, which is a bit, it's completely off topic and completely irrelevant. And I know we're late to the party with this, but myself and Kira have just started to watch Yellowstone.
Oh, I've heard
Have
about
you
it.
watched it?
Yeah, I've heard about it. It's advertised everywhere here, but I haven't
Yeah,
watched it.
it's
Good.
it's very, very, very good. Yeah, so it
Is
follows
it
like,
it's Kevin Costner?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. There's some brilliant characters in it, and it's very good. So we're on the second series of Yellowstone and enjoying it. So if there's any Yellowstone fans out there, make sure you reach out and just don't spoil it for me. But
Yeah, as soon as
yeah,
you
it's
said
excellent.
farmers, something was like, oh, he's going to talk about Clarkson's farm, because I'm not sure if you're a Top Gear fan, but
Yeah, I am.
we've we've watched all of we haven't watched the one. There's a spin-off with Caleb the kid that actually runs the farm apparently, but we've watched all of Clarkson's farm, and I feel like we know more than now the normal person about
Farming.
agriculture and farming
Yeah,
in Great Britain.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
the
have you watched that one?
Yellowstone. No, I haven't. I used to
Oh,
watch
okay,
Top Gear all the time. It was a Sunday evening favorite for me for ages when I was
so good.
younger. But yeah, Yellowstone's great. We're starting to quote the cowboys and stuff around the house, so it's having an impact on us. But
That's a good sign. How quotable something is a really good sign of quality, I
yeah, no, it's a
feel.
quality show. We don't actually tend to watch very much. Like the last series we watched was before Christmas, and then we just decided we need to get back into something. It's a nice way to kind of switch off in the
Mm.
evenings. So that's what we've been watching and absolutely loving it. So just a quick mention to Yellowstone.
Yeah, shout
But
out Yellowstone. There you go. Well,
yeah,
we'll add that to our list as well. But
yeah. Maybe we
what
should
about
talk about some
so?
running now. Yeah.
Oh, what about my weather, man? We touched on it, but we've we've literally had it. So it officially turned, I reckon, last weekend, end of last week, and I actually did a little post, a little story on my Instagram because I was. I get up pretty early, right? I'm up at 4:30 to try and get to work as soon as possible after 5. And the way my day on Monday had panned out, I was like, oh, I'm gonna get my run done early, kind of like 6 a.m. if I can. I was driving to work and I was like, oh, it feels like it's a bit biting today. Like the car was like just defrosting the car a little bit. I was sitting in there thinking, oh, the steering wheel's pretty cold. I'm pretty chilly in here. And then I go on my run and it's like there's what do you call it, like condensation when there's when it's so cold that you breathe mist basically. And I ran past one of these car shops, and the car shop's got a thermometer on the little stand outside, and it's saying 1 degree. And there's me in my shorts, t-shirt, and basically nothing else. I had gloves on, in all fairness to myself, but I was like, yeah, it's pretty brisk. But then something about my inner Londoner, my inner English person, is like, no, you're tough as nails, mate. You're hard as. You're gonna show these guys that you like there is nothing that is too cold for a run. And I did get some funny looks because like when I say I wasn't wearing much, I wasn't really wearing much. So it is officially turned and we've had some like days that are near freezing, but fortunately we've only had one day this week where it's raining. Like the other days it's cold as, but it's also like quite nice. It's sunny. It's like brisk, but yeah, quite enjoyable. But
Yeah, that's pretty
um
nice weather to run in when it's cold but pleasant,
sunny.
if that makes
Mm,
sense. Yeah, I take that all winter long, mate. But unfortunately, here it tends to be cold, miserable, wet, and rainy. So it's like you're trying to stay warm and you're also trying to stay dry and everything else. It's absolutely grim. But that's a distant
yeah.
memory, and I'm just trying to keep that out of the mindset for now because the good weather definitely changes. I know we've talked about it before, but the good weather just 100% has a positive effect on your overall
Yeah.
well-being.
You got to enjoy it while it's there. Don't think how long is this going to last. Just be in the moment, enjoy it, and go. Yeah, I'm just going to make the most of this.
Yeah.
Get out as
I mean
much as
that's
possible.
in this country that's what we're obsessed with doing. Number
Mm,
one, talking about the weather, but two,
yeah,
always kind of thinking about when the good weather's going to break. Oh, I
yeah,
hear there's rain coming. All you'll hear is like, oh, there's the rain's coming on Friday or the
yeah, yeah.
whatever. It's like just enjoy the weather for what it
Forget
is.
Friday. Yeah,
Yeah,
go
it's nice now.
outside.
Or else it gets warm and people's just complaining that it's too warm. It's unbelievable. We have this
No,
chronic habit in this
mm,
country of maybe it's everywhere, but especially in Ireland of just constantly talking about the weather, and I'm no different. You know.
in all fairness, people here to moan about the heat, and I'm like, bros, you're Australian. Like I know it's Melbourne and it's not really that extreme, but I'm like, just get on with it. Like, yes, it's 40 degrees, but you live in Australia. If you don't like it, like, go go move somewhere else at the end of the day, right? Because, or if you can. But I stand by the fact that I will never complain about the weather. Honestly, I will never like. And any of my clients or anyone that I know in Australia listening to this, you can quote this, but yeah, I know what you mean. Like a lot of people, and it's the same people that complain about like the rain is coming that then sit indoors all day and don't get outside. I'm like, mate, we've got to change this.
Yeah.
But yeah, look,
No, so it's
enough
been
weather.
good. Weather's been class.
But what about running? How's running been? What's happening?
Yeah, running's been great, mate. I think last week we finished on obviously Friday we spoke and you
Friday.
asked me to we talked about the new park run here in Lurgan.
Mm.
Um so I think you'd said you dared me to go out and win it.
Yeah, I wanted you to win it. Like,
So I chucked the Vaporflies on, mate. But
go on. Please tell me. Please
but
tell me you won it.
I just want to say that I just want to make this very clear. There's no winner at Parkrun. Parkrun is not a race.
That is the
Well, you
best
know,
and
Parkrun is a community event. It's not a race. It's there is no winner or loser, but there is a first person across the line, and I was the first person across the line
yes.
in Parkrun last Saturday. So You know,
I'm so here for it, man. That's made my day. That is
yeah. So it was good fun last Saturday morning. Again, it was an unreal morning. Like honestly, I actually said to Kira when we were standing around the start line, and my mum and dad were actually there as well. They just brought the dog up for a walk around the park. During park run, and mum actually decided to do the park run. So shout out to my mum who done her first ever park run
and
at
got
the
and got
inaugural
beaten
Lurgan Park Run.
by Mr. Adam
Yeah.
Smith, winner.
So she kind of
Yeah, go
she
on.
kind of did she kind of did like a walk slash easy jog around park run. She kind of did like a bit of walking and then picked up the pace for a few minutes and then walked again. So good on her for doing that, and she enjoyed it. So she brought the dogs up and did that. Um, but when we were standing at the briefing for park run, I was standing with mom and dad and the dogs, and I actually felt like I was in Australia, mate, because in the park, right, our park here in Lurgan is absolutely beautiful. I've said it in a couple of Instagram posts before, how lucky we are to have this park in Lurgan. And anyone that has been there will know how beautiful that it is. And if you haven't been to Lurgan Park, I recommend that you come. So we were standing at like this cricket pavilion for the pre-run briefing. And honestly, because it was so sunny, it felt like I was in Australia. Standing on the grass, park run briefing was happening. It was class. So that was the first bit, and then yeah, just as I said, chuck the vapor flies on. Was like, right, I'll just. I didn't really fancy running that hard because
The
honestly,
sun
I
is
was.
slowly coming out.
Do you know what,
Game
mate?
face.
I even had a vest on, so that's
Yes.
it.
Was it a sore vest? Was it the proper
Nah,
like?
nah, it
Ah,
was just
boo.
a. It's just I think it was a Nike vest, but
Fair enough.
yeah, I wasn't gonna wear my actual club vest, mate. That's
I was
illegal.
going to say like
You
a.
can't wear a club vest at yeah, that's an
Is
unwritten rule.
that?
You don't wear
I
a
was
club
going to say
vest.
is that actually a rule or is that no? That's
Nah, it's an unwritten rule. The only
yeah,
time I would
okay.
ever wear my club vest would be an actual race. Um,
Fair enough.
wouldn't be yeah, I wouldn't be doing any training or a park run in an athletics club vest.
Can I just interject and say I love that you are now basically immortalized as the I'm not gonna in my eyes you were the first person to cross the line. You are the winner. Like you in a to me you're a winner anyway, but you are the winner. And now on the records, the inaugural Lurgan Park Run, it's Adam Smith, very top. That that means a lot to me, and I didn't even do it. So
Well, I'm delighted that it means something to you, mate. But
thank you, mate.
yeah, so the plan was to just like do the bare minimum to be
Yeah.
the first person because I was actually pretty tired. So um it's like a 2 lap course, and I run here every single day, so kind of know it quite well. There's quite a bit of like gravel on it. It's quite hilly. There's quite a few tight turns, so it's not the fastest course in the world, but it's definitely a good course, if that makes sense. It's
Hmm.
not the slowest, it's not the fastest, but it's a really nice course, and it's 2 laps. So basically, the first lap, I went out with a couple of guys, just sat behind them, sort of beside them, and just took it pretty easy for about the first 1.3 miles or 2Ks, 2.2Ks. And then just slowly kind of got going, just as the engines warmed up a little bit, and then just clipped around at about kind of half marathon pace, half marathon effort. And yeah, first across the line in about 17:02 and enjoyed it, mate. And then we headed for coffee afterwards. There's a great coffee shop just up the street from Lurgan Park here that we go to all the time. Um, and grabbed a coffee there with Kira, who done the park run as well with her cousin. So shout out to them. It was a whole family affair on
That's
Saturday
so
past.
good. How good?
So yeah, it was a great morning, mate, and that was that. So yeah, it was good stuff. And then Sunday morning, got up. Sorry, mate.
I can say what so you finished just over 17 minutes. What's your fastest? What's your PB for 5K?
I've only ever raced once over 5K,
Hmm.
um, and that was when I was actually being coached with David in March last year. I ran 15:31.
Wow, there you go.
So I'm quite keen to better that potentially this year, especially 5K, 10K, particularly 10K. I've only ever raced one, like I've only ever properly raced one 5K, and I think I've raced 10K twice or three times because I've always kind of targeted longer distances.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's the 5K time. Um, I did actually run I did actually I think I ran a 16 something park run in the middle of a 20 miler a couple years ago as like part of my half marathon training block. So that would be 16, I think 16:25 or 16:30 is my sort of park run best. So maybe over the summer I'll look to better my park run best or even just better my 5K time of 15:31. So that was good fun on Saturday. Um, then Sunday we headed up to Belfast, myself and Barry here, Barry McCarroll, good friend of mine, um, that we would do a lot of running with together. We headed up to Belfast to meet the Roadrunners crew and a few others who they were the guys that we trained a lot in the marathon block. We met them in Belfast for like a hilly long run up around Divis. So I was chatting to you during the week about this. You were sort of asking me about where we were at and the views and stuff because it was
Yeah,
absolutely beautiful.
yeah.
So we headed up. Um, we parked up and we headed out for about 16, just over 16 miles, 2 hours of running up over Divis Mountain in Belfast. So it pretty much climbs for like the first half and then descends for the second half. Um, and that was like it was like over 2,000 feet of climbing. So
Wow,
very,
that's a
very,
lot.
very. It's a hilly run. Yeah, it's a proper hilly
Mm.
run. In fact, almost like when we were close to the summit, um, Noah was taking the piss out of me, but I actually had to stop running for about 5, 6 seconds and like hike just to kind of like just to allow my legs just to have a little bit of a break and to catch my
Yeah,
breath.
yeah,
So it was proper hilly and I'm not used to that stuff. So it's definitely a weakness of mine, something that I don't know if it would benefit me much to work on it, but I would like to work on it in time is that kind of uphill strength. Um but it's one of those things, if you don't do it often, you're not going to be particularly good at it. So it was nice to do that. Definitely felt it on Monday morning in the legs. So that was Sunday. And again, the weather was just stunning. Views were unbelievable. You can just see, like, when you're at the top of Divis, you just have this, if you look around, you just have a pretty much a panoramic view of like Belfast and the whole surrounding area, like right up the coast towards like Newton Abbey and stuff like that. So that was a really nice day. A really great group of guys and girls that met up for that run on Sunday. So that was a nice way to end the week. And we started. I covered a bit of last week on last week's podcast. Finished up with again 82 miles. So I would just say like good volume. I won't be going. I probably won't go much higher to be honest through the summer because that's something that again we can come on to. But the focus is shifting in terms of my training. Like I've just ran a marathon. I'm very marathon fit, and like I'm quite conscious not to use the words like aerobically fit because I think marathon fitness is very different because you need a set of skills to run a good marathon. You need that like fatigue resistance and durability that I think a lot of people don't realize. So it's time now to um yeah, get a bit of zip back in my legs, get a little bit of pop back in the legs and like still maintain really good aerobic fitness, but really look to kind of build my my threshold, like to try to increase my lactate threshold or my cruising speed, increase my running economy. And yeah, we can talk about the sort of ways that I'm thinking about doing that, but that's going to be the kind of the goal over the next couple of months before I get into another marathon block.
yeah. Well, I mean, we might as well dig into that because we're there. So from what I'm hearing, it sounds as though you're because like, when you're running a marathon, like you said, a lot of that comes down to just total endurance. So being able to last for that distance at what is not actually a hugely high percentage of your absolute maximum. So am I right in saying that we need to bring volume down to make room for that quality work that's going to help you actually get faster over slightly shorter
Yep.
distances?
Yep, that's pretty much bang on. We're just like balancing the equation, where if I tried to do, you know, essentially what I'm going to be doing is running a little bit faster, more often. And so if you do that and you continue to run 105, 110 miles per week, it's huge risk.
Mm.
Plus then you're kind of putting more fatigue into the body and it's like if you're putting more fatigue into the body, can you get the quality in and absorb it and adapt to it? So it's this balancing act that you're always playing as a coach or an athlete. So yeah, I'll be bringing the volume down a bit just to, because like the volume's there, you know, like that just doesn't leave me. You know, if I stay in touch with it through a weekly long run or a midweek long run, or it's not going to go anywhere. So that sort of element to your fitness is built. Similarly, you're also not targeting races that are um requiring that set of skills. So you can kind of not leave it for now, but just lessen the load or lessen the amount of that type of training that you do, in order to get some more quality in. But just to then touch on the quality, like I'm still going to be training very aerobically. I think again, this is in this phase of training a place where I have seen many people make the mistake of thinking they need lots of anaerobic training or like super fast 5K, 10K paced work. And in my opinion, like you don't, you just need, yes, you need speed, but I would call it like relaxed speed. Where, like, for example, I'm starting to add in some 200 meter and some 400 meter intervals, but I'm doing them at what I would call like feel good speed. So I'm not running with like tension. I'm not absolutely ruining myself. And similarly, like I'm taking quite a long recovery. So if I run a 200 meter interval, and let's say like it depends on the surface, it depends on whatever, you know, it depends on many things. You know, a 200 meter on the track under really good conditions is going to be much faster than a 200 meter around the trail,
Mhm.
when it's really windy. But if I'm running a 200 meter at a good clip, feeling pretty relaxed and no tension in the body, I'm taking a 200 meter jog recovery really slow. So it's like at least a minute probably of recovery, or maybe sometimes even more. Similarly, then those like 400s, which are done with a similar feeling, that like feel good speed, um, probably not much faster than 10K speed. I'm taking like a 400 meter jog recovery. So it's like that's still like you're still working aerobically. Um, you're still probably working in and around like or under lactate threshold. Granted, the speed's higher, but because the volume of the repetition is less, you're still in that aerobic kind of training zone.
Mhm.
Um, you're not putting that massive cost on the body, which a lot of anaerobic training will do. And kind of if you're trying to still run a decent amount of volume, I think people can slip into overtraining and fatigue very, very easily if you sort of train in that anaerobic zone too often, which is why you're seeing so many athletes like training to lactate and so on, just to make sure that um,
You're not
they're
overcooking
not.
it, basically.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like where training is starting to go. I feel like this is just based on like my feeling is that my legs need that little bit of zip again. Like I need that pop or that power back in my legs. Because I feel like they're really aerobically fit. And I'm not even going to go down the kind of the tangent of talking about like slow twitch and fast twitch and like trying to train muscle fibers in a particular way. But that's like where my attention is going towards, as opposed to just the sustained like a lot of, yeah, I'm dropping like a lot of steady state longer stuff out for just trying to find that little bit of pop again over the coming weeks.
Yeah. And is this in like preparation for a specific race, or is this just you trying to better yourself as a runner so that you're
Yeah,
ready should something arise?
pretty much trying to better myself as a runner. Like I do want to race. Well, have organized a 10K race later in the summer, which I think I'll be doing as long as myself and Kira aren't away anywhere. At that stage, I also do want to, you know, I do want to run either a couple of 5K or 10K races between now and probably um late August or early August. So I haven't even like, yeah, I haven't booked them yet, but I just want to start putting the work into place so that I can begin to look at potential races. And I mean, I think the benefit to doing this kind of training is that you can jump in to a race on a whim. So even like with this type of training, if I'm feeling pretty good in a week, I can say, okay, this Saturday I'm going to hit a hard, fast park run. So I'll just give park run a good lash, or something like that. So yeah, it's just that shift in focus. And what that also does is it really does break the monotony and it gives you like a brand new kind of novel stimulus to your training, like even in your head. So that's something that I felt like this last like 7 to 10 days has been, it's a really nice switch. And starting to feel like, yeah, really like just a new zest for running, if you will. So yeah, I also did. like just changing things up a little bit. Like I did a moderate run the other day where it was sort of low end tempo, but I added in some surges. So kind of just working at like I actually just stuck the heart rate monitor on and just kept my heart rate below 140. Um, and just for reference, like my heart rate during London Marathon was like 150, 152. So it was quite a relaxed run, but it wasn't easy. And then
Mm.
like every 5 minutes, I'd do a 30-second surge, at a decent pace. So just runs like that, just to get that pop back in my legs. And as I said, reducing the overall volume to allow for that little bit more quote unquote quality work, um, and doing less plodding and less, easy running unless I'm on a recovery day.
So is this less double runs, or will you
Yeah, I'll
typically take those out first?
yeah, not necessarily. There will definitely be less. I won't take them out altogether. Like I might do like a morning maybe 6 by 1K or 8 by 1K again at like 3:30 pace, like close to marathon pace. Again, depending on conditions and everything else, it'll be more of a feeling based thing. Um, or at like LT1 if we're talking about, in terms of aerobic and anaerobic thresholds, it would be more at that low end threshold. And then in the evening, like I might do a moderate 40 minutes with surges, or I might do even some turnover work where I go out and do just like 4 to 5 miles, but I throw in some like 10 by 30 seconds at just that easy, relaxed speed. So the double runs will look like that as opposed to like 10 to 12 miles in the morning, at like maybe a steady effort with 6 miles very, very easy in the evening, which would maybe be more inclined to do in marathon training. So
Yeah, just to get the
yeah,
miles in the legs,
I
basically.
won't completely, leave out the doubles. I still believe volume and mileage is important to a degree. Um, I won't completely leave it out. I'll still do a weekly long run, and or at least a long run every 10 days anyway. Probably more like every 7 days, but see how I feel. So that's just kind of where things are going. That's the direction that things are taking. Yeah, I suppose a bit of an exploration project, isn't it? It's like, yeah, I'm just um thinking about. I've thought quite a lot about what I need as a runner. Um, and I've also thought about. I think we touched on this, like my bias. Do you know? Like my bias has always typically been like I'm a mileage guy. I love volume, so I've also tried to factor that in to the equation, um, and then just thinking about, yeah, just what way do what like angle do I want to approach it from? Like what angle am I going to enjoy it from? And then similarly, like what environment do I have to train within? I don't have a track on my doorstep, and I don't really want to drive to Belfast to use the track too often. So it's kind of like, thinking about all those things. And I've been doing a lot of running on the grass actually lately. Where we live here in Lurgan basically backs on to this parkland. Not Lurgan Park, by the way, that the Parkrun was on, but just a different park. And there's like 4 football pitches, and they're on different levels. So like one's on a like
Yeah,
an
yeah,
our house is on quite high ground, and the top football pitches are up in line with that, and then the bottom football pitches are down quite a sharp uh quite a sharp hill. So I've been lapping those pitches a lot. I've been running on those like 3 to 4 times over the last couple of weeks and absolutely loving it. It's almost like it feels almost like meditation when you're going round and round, especially when you feel good and you get into a nice rhythm. So a couple of those like 30 to 40 minute moderate or steady runs I've been using the pitches for, and I'll continue to use them for because it's super dry at the minute. So, and they've been cut. So you're running on a decent surface. You can get moving on it. And I also think the grass is a great place to kind of teach your body to run with really good form, because you kind of can't
mm.
get away with being sloppy on the grass because
Yeah, yeah.
it's grass. You know what I mean? It's not like a track. It's not a really fast surface. So I think mechanically you have to be quite efficient,
You have
and
to
really
pick up your
focus.
feet. You
You
can't
have
really
to pick up your
drag.
feet and
Yeah.
and and like even lift your knee, for example, a little bit
Hmm.
more. So a lot of marathon runners don't have a very high knee lift when they run, so that grass kind of um, it just forces you to be a bit more efficient. Granted, you might be running a little bit slower, that's fine. But if I'm getting the same intensity and I'm actually running with better form, well, that's a win-win for me. So, and it's enjoyable. Like I've been absolutely loving getting out on the grass. It's been really cool. Um, so yeah, that's kind of the direction the direction, sorry, that training has been taken lately.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's a really good point you were saying about how sometimes you do need something a bit novel to not necessarily respark the enjoyment for something, but just to give yourself a little bit like, 'cause look, at the end of the day, running is quite monotonous, especially when most of us do the same kind of like 2 or 3 loops week in, week out. And when you're running 6 times a week, like you're doing the same thing a lot. So change if you can't change where exactly you're running, changing the shape of those runs, especially if you can coincide that with, I suppose, your goals or your weak points, is a really good way of doing things. And coming off the back of a marathon, like having that objective chat or assessment of yourself and going, oh, all right, I've done my marathon, and what do I need now? And then adjusting things is a really good place to start. Like, I'm big fan of that, and I guess that's a good lesson to any runners out there who maybe you're moving into specific sessions but are doing the same thing over and over again. It's like, well, you can change, your focus can change, even if it doesn't necessarily need to. Sometimes just like experimenting and going like, okay, I might try some shorter reps. I wouldn't necessarily go playing with volume unless you're like really confident in what you're doing. Obviously, Adam, you're a very experienced coach, so you've got more, I guess, knowledge behind what you're doing. But yeah, it's a good point. You don't really need to get too dogmatic in one way of training,
That's exactly
because
right.
that's all there is, basically. 'Cause it's not. There's a lot of different ways to train, and there's a lot of energy systems to be trained. So,
Exactly right. And I feel
really
like
interesting.
my body has got so used to a lot of easy, slow mileage. I want to just flip that switch a little bit
Mm,
and just switch on, yeah, some faster twitch muscle fibers, um, or retrain some of those maybe slower twitch muscle fibers, or the proportion of slower twitch muscle fibers to be a slightly different fiber typology. So it's just flicking that switch a bit. And with a lot of the athletes that I coach, not all, because sometimes other athletes need like more of something as opposed to changing it. Um, it just depends on the athlete and what they've been doing beforehand, and how their races have gone and so on. But yeah, I'll be doing something similar. It's because I think a lot of people post marathon, once they recover, they're like, right, it's now time to get fast over 5K or 10K. And all of a sudden, instead of doing like, instead of instead of seeking to improve their cruising speed or their lactate threshold and their running economy, they seek to improve like their quote unquote speed. And so they go out and they run like intervals that are way too fast, or they go out and they hammer some really hard tempo runs. And um we know that the cost of exercising within that domain is really high on both the cardiovascular system but also the musculoskeletal.
mm,
And it's also not that beneficial. Like, it's not actually required for most runners. Now, yes, a sprinkle of it is great. An anaerobic stimulus is fantastic if used properly. Um, but the benefits of working in aerobic energy systems, and again, like it, I think a lot of people hear aerobic and they think just easy, ploddy miles. That's not what aerobic means, especially for a well-trained runner or someone that's been training for a while. There's actually a huge domain to exercise within. In fact, it's the biggest,
mm,
domain to exercise within in terms of like the range of intensities or the spectrum of paces, or whatever way you measure your training. If it's feeling, if it's heart rate, if it's pace, there's a huge spectrum to train within. Um, as I said, especially if you're a well-trained runner, if you haven't been training for very long, that sort of that range or spectrum is much less. But um, it's important to note, and it's really important to remember that, yeah, aerobic just doesn't mean just easy. You can be running I could be running 200-meter reps in 33 to 35 seconds, which is, you're running fast, but you're taking, this is if I'm on a track, by the way, and then like I'm taking a long recovery or a good full recovery. You're still working in an aerobic, mostly speaking, an anaerobic domain. It's also important to note that like we don't just flick the switch between aerobic and anaerobic as we're running. It's
yeah.
always a blend. And I think that's the mistake a lot of people make post marathon, is they think it's time to do like 5K, 10K speed work. And yeah, typically that sets you up for failure. And generally that like notion of training harder actually makes people go the opposite direction. You
Mm.
see people that really start to uh, injury, burnout, the loss of motivation, um, and just because training's not kind of optimal, the times don't actually come. You know, the sort of the breakthroughs in performance don't come over those 5K, 10K distances. Whereas if you keep it aerobic and focus on improving the lactate threshold, improving the running economy, things do improve.
Yeah, that's a really good point about just how big the range of that spectrum of what is aerobic comes into, because I think the one other variable to think about is time. So it's not like as soon as you start running at X pace, it's aerobic versus Y pace that is anaerobic. It's like, look, if I run at X pace for longer than a minute, it's going to become anaerobic, but that's not to say I can't run at it. So that is, if I'm hearing you right, it's all about kind of spending given amount of time and certain recovery to make sure that those aerobic paces don't become anaerobic, right? So it's kind of
Exactly.
really working across a range of different paces, but then just adjusting the time spent in each of those. And it should obviously be relative. So lower percentages, you can get away with more time spent in that zone. But
And
yeah,
the better
really.
trained, the more well
Mm.
trained you are, as long as you've been training properly and you're really well aerobically trained, you know, you can be running very fast and be training aerobically. You can be running, you can be running at fast speeds and training aerobically. But like you say, time comes into it, and that's the best way to quantify it as opposed to distance, because distance again is a relative term depending on how fast you are. Um, so yeah, measuring time versus intensity is a great way to think about, am I going to drift into this um, other sort of other energy system, which isn't going to give me as much benefit as staying within the aerobic energy system.
Mm.
So that's, yeah, I guess that's kind of the direction. Maybe I'll have more to talk about next week in terms of that, because it's very much just like this is the direction that things are going this week. I'm starting to kind of thinking, I'm starting to now structure it in a way, um, and take it from there.
Yeah, honestly, I think a lot of the listeners will take. I know it will. Excuse me. I know it will confuse the heck out of a lot of listeners, because I know we've got some newer runners, but I think this is one of those things where come back to it in about 6 months' time when you've really had a chance to get into running and kind of learn about things. And it's super interesting because I still find this kind of thing interesting. And I've obviously had my head around it for a little while, but I think it's all really good stuff to be covering. And I think if there are any kind of advancements in your training, I think the people love to hear it, because I know I love to hear it. So
Yeah,
for
but I
sure,
mean,
man.
just then I suppose give like to give the novice or the beginner runner or the person that isn't very experienced some advice, it would be keep all of your running pretty easy.
Mm,
Um, Even if you are going to do an interval session, don't like don't do intervals that are going to completely make you feel. Even if yeah, I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase this. Um, yeah, keep everything controlled. And
mm,
maybe once per week practice, or just stay in touch with running fast, if through like 20-second efforts or 20-second strides, or just even if you're really healthy and maybe you're younger, some short fast hills like 8 to 10 seconds off really long full recovery. I'm talking like 2 minutes here
mhm,
off the hills. But when you go out to do any running, whether it's like a longer run or you're going to do some shorter intervals of some description, whether they're 1 minute intervals or 5 minute intervals, keep the effort of those intervals very controlled. That's the mistake that I made when I started to run. Was like, I went out to do interval sessions and training sessions, and yep, I just thought I needed to run faster. I thought I needed to run much harder than what I did. And yeah, you don't. You want to keep those intervals, you want to keep those training sessions mostly aerobic, and you'll get a lot more benefit from them, and you'll recover
mhm.
much quicker from them, and you'll be able to stack together much more of them. Um, of course, it really does depend on like how long you have been running for. Like the absolute beginner, um, compared to the runner that's been running for 6, 7 months, 8 months, and they've maybe done their first half marathon. It's so individualized. It's so different for everyone. And like I said, it does depend massively on, yep, how well trained you are, how
Mm.
big the range will be. And if you're not very well trained, the range is going to be the aerobic range is going to be very small, because for a lot of beginner runners, like as soon as they start running, they're not aerobic anymore because they haven't been running at all. They've never ran. So like that person I would encourage to walk for a month. Like go out and walk every day for a month, or like as many days as you can, and get some aerobic fitness in your tank. And maybe we can start to do some little strides, or then we can introduce some 30-second jogs. So that's the absolute beginner. Instead of going and starting to run, it's so important to actually teach your body to move and actually function aerobically at any intensity before you start running. Um, yeah, hopefully that does make some sort of sense.
Yeah, man, I say this all the time to clients who are just getting into running. I'm like, basically forget about anything you've heard about zones, because right now you have two zones. You have zone 1 and you have zone 5. As soon as you go anything above a walk, your anaerobic, your heart rate's going to shoot up. So like, like you said, don't worry about it. And it's all about kind of getting the ratio of walking to running right for most beginner runners. So like don't run before you can walk, essentially, is where the saying comes from, and it really rings true in this instance.
Yeah, absolutely.
But look, I might touch on my training a little bit, if that's not that
That'll be
there's
good.
much to
No, that'll
touch
be good.
on, but where did we leave off? So we left off a lot of so on that point, actually, I'm obviously earlier in my running career, so I think we've spoken about this a couple of times, but a lot of my training is actually aimed towards building up my aerobic fitness, because I never really had a whole heap of that. I've only been running, I realized, for properly for about a year and a half now, which is pretty kind of fun to think, but it's definitely just been a case of keeping my same, I guess, structure, or David's keeping the same structure for me. And it's always like, I started off Monday, that was like some nice easy running, that was early in the morning with some strides at the end, and then went into the first of my treadmill. So all of my, no, not all, two of my 3 sessions or workouts at the moment are on the treadmill. Just, it's like really convenient, and I love being able to just dial in the pace. I can be on the same treadmill every week. I just set it up and I just don't have to think, and I really quite enjoy that. So this week it was, just looking back, I did like 6 by 6 minutes at my marathon pace, which was pretty comfortable. I'm not actually a fan of doing longer intervals on a treadmill, because you start to
No.
like lose your mind a little bit. It's fine, 6 minutes ain't the end of the world, but if were that outside, 6 minutes would be easy as, like, 6 minutes at marathon pace is, it's no problem. As soon as you put it on a treadmill, it gets a little bit monotonous towards the end of it, but nonetheless, we got it done. And then Wednesday had a nice 15K, which was a little bit longer than some of my normal Wednesday easy runs. I used to have 12K, but I think that's been bumped up now to give me a little bit more time to recover on Thursday, which I used to do 10. I'm now doing 8 for the time being. And all these are feeling pretty nice. And then today I had my quicker reps, so I had 12 by 2 minutes at about 350, which was good fun. It's one of those sessions where I was feeling a bit flat going into it, like end of the week, had coaching all morning, and then just jumping on the treadmill for those first reps. It feels quick, even though it's not, relatively, it's nothing outrageous, but those first 2 minute reps felt a little bit, I was like, man, I feel sloppy. I feel like I need to like dial it in. But then had some carb drink, turned the music up a little bit, and I was like, yeah, by the end of it, I was flying. I was like, I could do this, maybe not all day, but I could do this for a good while longer. But I think that's
What's
how
on
I
your
enjoy.
What's on your playlist, mate?
You know what? You're gonna think this is weird. I actually have, for anyone that's got YouTube Music, I've got like a super mix, which is everything I listen to. So I'm talking, we can go from the most aggressive metal you have ever heard in your life to Ed Sheeran, to bit of Ariana Grande, back to the hardcore stuff, and then to Central C, like everything. So it literally up and down, in and out,
Eclectic.
like a eclectic. Um, but I kind of like that. It keeps me on my toes because I'm genuinely there, thinking I have no idea what is going to come next. It could be a film score. Who knows? It could be the Wiggles because that's what we play for my little one, off my phone. So you never know what you're going to get, but
Maybe
that's
have
good
to
fun.
post. Maybe have to post a little playlist in there for the listeners to check out. If it's
I might. I'm not
we
sure.
could do a flow state. We could do a flow state Spotify.
That's a good idea. That would be very, very eclectic, very all over the place. But
Yeah. Well, I've got a
let
pretty
us know.
eclectic taste in music as well. I'd be into a lot of different stuff. The only type of music that I probably wouldn't listen to would be that really heavy metal.
Hey, we
Big
can
fan of
change
rock
that.
music. Big fan of some kind of you know post punk and maybe sometimes a little bit of metal, but and punk as well. But definitely not much really heavy metal.
Yeah, no, some of the music I listen to is imagine if you personified hatred and anger and aggression and put it into a song. That's like that gets me going. That gets me fired
Okay.
up. Sometimes it calms me down, frankly. Like I'll have had a brilliant day at work, really like calm, relaxing. I'm like, I'm going to listen to the most aggressive music you've ever heard in your life, and I'm going to enjoy it. But that's just me. But yeah, maybe like, hey, look, if you guys want to hear the Flow State playlist, let us know, and we can put that together for you.
Make that happen.
Um, yeah, we can do that. But yeah, it was a good old session today, and I was going to mention actually, I had a little bit of a little bit of a story time. I haven't talked to Adam about this. It's not that good a story, but in my head, it's good. So, for anyone that I've spoken to about it, they know I love the Adidas Adios Pro 4s. Like I did some training in them prior to the marathon, and I was like, look, this is the marathon shoe for me. I'm going to go for them above the Alpha Fly. And I came out of that marathon with my feet were probably in better condition than every single other part of my body. And I was like, look, I wish I had 100 pairs of these so I never have to worry about a marathon shoe again because I don't want to try anything else. Like that Pro 4 is the best thing I've ever put on my feet for that kind of
It's high
thing. Even though
praise.
right, honestly. And they've they always get me because we were talking about this off air a couple of weeks ago. So for the listeners who don't know, growing up in the UK and Ireland, we play a lot of football, soccer. It's football, but for those that need it to be spelled out, soccer as well. And football boots are a big thing, especially when we were growing up, and we were both talking about the Adidas Predator, which was like there's the David Beckham signature football boot. It was everywhere, and it was like
Yeah.
iconic. And you had
The
to have
Zidane.
the Zidane had them, like beautiful, beautiful shoe. And if you don't know what we're talking about, just look up like Adidas Predator, maybe around like the year 2002. I think it
Adidas
probably
Predator. Adidas Predator Mania was
yeah,
the
the
name, I
Mania.
think. Yeah,
Yeah,
2002.
yeah.
You're right. That was the time.
It coincided with the World Cup, I think, at the time. But yeah, outrageous shoe. And so I've basically got this thing for Adidas trainers that have the big three stripes. So for anyone that saw the pictures of me at Ballarat, I had the original colorway of the Pro 4s, which is the white with the black, and it's got some hits of red around the heel and the sole. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to retire these from any more marathons. I'll probably run some more races, but I probably won't run another marathon in them. So I want to get a pair for the Melbourne Marathon, which is in October. And what they've done is they've released quite a hard pair to get, frankly, because it wasn't online for very long, and there's only one store
Definitely, definitely
gone,
ticks the box for you, doesn't it?
and it definitely is.
Something that's hard to get.
My brother, as soon as I saw that it was hard to get, I was like, I need to have it. It's a must for me. And so there I am. And the pair I'm talking about, for anyone who knows, it's like an off-white with red stripes. And it's oh mate, it's so crisp, so crisp. And I I'm looking everywhere for it. I'm checking the Adidas site and it's just not coming back online. I was like, look, all right, I need to find out which stores have this. And we looked it up, or I looked it up. My partner doesn't give a shit. She didn't look it up. I looked it up, and there was one store in the whole of Melbourne that had it, and that is Adidas Chadstone. Right. And for anyone that doesn't know, Chadstone's like a huge shopping centre. It's the biggest in Australia, but it's also about an hour drive from us. And I'm like, look, I really want these shoes. And this is saying that this is the only place I can get them in the whole of Melbourne, if not Australia. Like, who knows? Maybe they don't have it anywhere else. So last Saturday, we braved it down to what is the busiest and biggest shopping centre in all of Australia.
Cancelled
And
all family plans.
there was no plans to be had. Like if a plan had to come up, I would have turned it down because priorities, right? So we literally travelled 2 hours both ways to get this one pair of shoes, and fortunately they had it. And shout out to the girl who served us, was fantastic. She was very understanding of my eagerness to get this pair, and I literally said to her, like, look, I don't need to try it on. I just need you to tell me if you've got them or not, and I'll take them, take my money. Um, but I did get them, and I've got them on ice now. So I know there was some. It was squeaky bums, as everyone was unsure if I got them, but I did.
You got them.
I got them, bro.
You
And I
copped
also
them.
picked up. I copped big time. And I actually also picked up a pair of the Evo SLs because they had a promotion. Um,
And you just
and
had to buy
so
them.
I had to.
Simple.
I
Simple as
slipped
that.
on Adam. If I'm gonna like recount the experience correctly for you, I walked in, picked up my Pro Force, slipped, and walked out, and I had two pairs. I I
It
I don't
happens,
know
mate.
how it happens.
It
It happens
happens.
to the best of us, clearly.
These things happen.
Yeah, I've also been running in those. So and honestly, they're a solid shoe. Um,
You've been sleeping on the couch since, haven't you? Sorry, that was. Are we recording
no,
here?
you weren't supposed to tell anyone about that, mate. You can see my bed in the background. No, look, it's my money. I'm
Yeah, I'm just
allowed to do
joking.
with it what I want to. I'm sweating now, Jesus.
Yeah.
But look, the SLs are fun to run in.
Good
They're
man. Yeah, you
like it's
enjoying
this.
those?
I am. I think I went. It's hard with sizing. So when I tried them on in the store, the 9.5 was like really tight. So I was like, look, I'll just take the 10 because they felt great. But then running in them, I feel like maybe there's a touch too much room, and I might have got away with the 9.5. But even still, just like with a tight, with a runner's knot, they're pretty good. Hmm. Honestly, 9.9.5 to 9.
Yeah, because
So
I'm wearing my usual size in the Evo SL and they fit perfectly for me. Um,
I
I
think it
like
might be my toes.
I can't
It's all,
stand when my toe is anywhere near the top of a shoe. Like if I feel like my toe is at the top of the shoe, even if it's not obviously your toe should not be touching the end of the shoe. But
mm,
if my toe is like even quite close to that, I hate that feeling in a running shoe. So
yeah.
I'm massive on like the fit of a shoe. That's like the most important thing to me when I'm trying a new shoe is getting the right fit. But I think we might have talked about this at the start, like when we started the podcast. But the Evo SL is perfect for me in my usual size, and I'm actually using it a lot. I'm loving it for grass running because it's really
Mm,
light. You've got that little bit of pop in it, and it's quite nimble. Do you know? So for
yeah,
that,
yeah.
for those grass laps that I've been doing, especially when I've been doing like the steadier runs on grass with some surges or just getting progressively faster, that shoe is the one for me. Whereas on the road, I find like it lacks a bit of stability, and I think that shoe does come to life when you run faster for sure. But I do think if you're wearing it for longer durations, it starts to just lack a bit of stability around the ankle. For me,
I Yeah, no, I was gonna say like similar thing. I found like I noticed there's quite a big kind of drop into the toe. So when I've only really done some easy runs, some warm ups, and a couple of strides in it, and it's not something I'd really do. I was explaining into this to one of our listeners, and a friend of mine, Scott. Shout out to you, Scott, again. Um, I was explaining like, look, I probably wouldn't want to do reps in this. Like, I'd just stick with carbon shoes, frankly. But in strides, they felt really nice. But I think for me, where it's maybe, I wouldn't say it's too big. I think I just have that little bit extra space around the toes because that's just how this size fits. They did definitely feel unstable, especially going around corners as well. Like I was not, I was really slowing down to go around corners. Um, and again, this is all road running, so I haven't worn them on grass, but I think nimble is a good way of putting it. Um, and honestly, most importantly though, they do look absolutely class, mate.
Yeah,
They
they're class looking shoe. I'm just quite
fantastic.
careful. I'm just quite careful how much I wear mine.
Mm.
Like not trying to slip into the habit of constantly picking them up because yeah, I do. They
It's
definitely
easy
lack
to.
stability and they're a really fun shoe to run in. So
Mm.
it's really easy to. I did see the Inside Running lads talking about how they love it for like longer runs where they maybe pick up the
Yeah,
pace a
yeah.
bit during them. But I'm not sure if I'd want that shoe on my foot for 2 hours. Unless I was really fresh and like my legs were really good, when you're mechanically super sound for a long period of time. But if I was at the back end of a decent training week, I'm not sure it would be the shoe that I'd reach for just due to that bit of stability.
See, I'd want to try it for a longer run because what I've found is in every run I've done it, the longest I think I've had is 10 so far, but it just gets more and more comfortable as I get into that run. So
Yeah, it
initially I'm
definitely
like,
does.
I'm not sure if it's because it's a new shoe to me as well, but I noticed that the first few Ks are almost like, okay, I'm just like feeling it out, feeling how this is working,
It
and then
almost feels too soft, I think, at the start.
potentially, um, you haven't worn it yet, but it reminds me of a slightly more nimble's a really good word, but a slightly more nimble, slightly faster Cloud Eclipse from On because
I
they
have
feel
worn it.
really. You have, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Honestly, the because for me the Cloud
I
Eclipse
got a pair on
is.
your recommendation.
Do you like it? Do you like them?
Yeah, I use them mostly for just wearing casually, but yeah, I do like
Fair.
them.
Yeah,
I do.
honestly, because for me that is a nice shoe because it's clearly got the cushion, but you can still feel the ground underneath you, so you get that proprioception. And when I was running in the Evos, I was like, it's the same feeling underfoot. It's not like a super blast, which you kind of melt into. You actually get, it's kind of like it just stays that flat surface. But then I'm not really a fan of running too fast in the Cloud Eclipse because you don't really get much back. Whereas the Evo SL, you do. You can like start to really kind of hammer the foot down, and there's like it's not a hyper return, but you do get a little bit of spring. So yeah, look, that's given me something to wear and enjoy as I can't wear my Pro Fours, my beautiful, beautiful Pro
No, you
Fours
will get
as yet.
keep those on ice, mate. But just I was just thinking there when we were talking about
Mm.
that shoe and like kind of what we're looking to wear it for, that Evo SL. My favorite ever shoe for doing those types of runs, whether it's long runs with pickups, steady runs with surges, just the best ever trainer in my opinion was the Saucony Endorphin Speed 1 and 2. So released
Mm.
like probably 5 odd years ago. Um, those shoes were just unbelievable. It was the first time I actually wore a shoe with a plate in it, and like to this day, it's still my favorite ever shoe. And then I also got a pair of the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3. So I think they're on maybe the Pro 4 now, or I can't
Yeah, we're
even
on the
remember.
fours.
But I
Yeah.
hate I hate the feeling of they kind of changed the geometry of the shoe and the feeling of the shoe, and I don't like it at all. But the Pro 3 it had a carbon plate, and I think it had a carbon plate, but
The
it didn't
Pro
feel
did.
like it didn't feel like an aggressive, because they still had their Endorphin Elite, which was their like aggressive racing shoe. So the Pro wasn't like a super aggressive geometry. So just for daily running and training, that shoe as well. I remember like for every long run, it was the best shoe ever. And the thing that I
Mm.
like about that shoe too is that it wasn't super soft in a way that the Evo SL is quite soft. Do you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
I think the softness of that Evo SL plus like the lack of real structure around the ankle area and the actual upper of the shoe leads to that instability. Whereas the Endorphin Elite, it wasn't super structured, but it just was a bit more around the ankle, was just a bit there was just a bit more like padding, or not padding. The padding just didn't move as much, and then the foam wasn't just as soft. In fact, it wasn't soft; it was more responsive. That shoe was just those two shoes: the Saucony Endorphin Speed 1 and 2, and the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3 and the Saucony Endorphin Pro 2. I had a pair of those as well. in white. Those shoes, those four shoes, are the best shoes in my opinion that have ever come out. Ever.
And that is great. That is great advice because no one could. They cannot be
Can't get
bought
them
now
anymore.
for
No.
love nor money.
I was actually
It's
having a
funny.
look on Vinted the other night to see if I could get my
Mm.
hands on a pair of any of those, and yeah, I just couldn't,
There's so
unfortunately.
because there's something people didn't know at the time, so it's not like you could buy them and go, "Yeah, I'm going to sell these in a little while," because it's like they're random like Saucony shoes that no one's going to care about apart from
Yeah,
like
I
actual
literally thought
runners.
like, oh man, like Saucony had an absolute winner with that
Mm,
1 and 2. And then the three was okay. Like I'm talking about the speed again. The speed was
yeah,
just it was okay. I liked it, not as
that's
much
the
as
one
the
I
one and
had.
two. And then the speed 4, which is the current version as far as I know. I don't like it at all. I really don't like it at all. Um, it doesn't actually fit me properly. Like when I put my foot into that shoe, the sort of area around my midfoot is too narrow.
Yeah,
Um,
okay.
I'm just raging because I just love those other shoes. But oh well.
To be honest with you, like I've still got I kind of semi-retired my Speed Free because that was the first pair of like proper running shoes I bought off the back of your recommendation, and I hammered those. That was the only pair I had, and I wasn't doing like big mileage or anything, but I was like wearing them 3 times a week for everything. And I've still got them. They're a bit trashed because I wore them through some like terrible weather, but I might actually dig them out just to see how they feel. Because I remember I tried them probably about 5 6 months ago again, and they would give me like I I still have a tendency to over pronate when I run, and so my tib post, which is a little muscle that goes down the inside of your kind of shin and connects to the calf, would get really aggravated, and that's not good because that's how you end up with stress fractures. But I put on this pair and I started running and I made it about 500 meters before my tib post was like, yeah, you're not doing this. And I actually had to take them off. But I've since been working on some strengthening, so I might actually give them another go and see, just to remind myself how they felt because I kind of it rings a bell everything we're saying, but it's probably been like 9 months since I've worn this shoe for a proper run. But
Yeah.
yeah, I haven't
So
even
good.
tried any of the fours. I haven't tried the speed, the pro, or I tried the elite or the elite two, technically because they only ever released two. And that was the one that didn't fit me, so I couldn't wear it at all. But
Yeah, I think there's something about the geometry or the shape of that, like speed 1 and 2, that really just suited how I run, like how I land and how I take off. So
I need to see what they look
yeah.
like. Phones. Yeah, they're not. They- I think they're these. They're one of these shoes. Like everyone
Can
will
you
be
see them?
googling it at the same time. I can. They're I think they probably never made it big because at the end of the day, there's not much. They're not much to look
Shoe
at, really.
That shoe in the running world was very popular. It was a
Yeah.
popular shoe. It was a popular shoe at the time. I remember it was quite difficult to get your hands on them, because it was like the first really good daily trainer in terms of like it was the first spin-off of a super shoe. Do you know how like you have the carbon plated shoes that are for race day and
Mm,
then you have the kind of training equivalent? That was the first really good one because Nike had the Zoom Fly, which was good and popular because it was Nike, but
mm.
that shoe was a lot better than, in my opinion, than a Zoom Fly. Because it actually had a plastic plate. Um, but if you just look at that shoe, you can tell it's not a really aggressive shoe. Like nowadays, you would almost just take that as just a just an
Any
everyday
old
trainer
daily trailer off. Yeah.
because shoes have sort of improved or not improved. Sorry, shoes have changed so much, but that was literally the best shoe ever, in my opinion.
There you go. You've heard it
So
here
so
first,
good,
guys.
so
Well,
good.
if anyone wants to sell my boy an unused
Yeah,
endorphin speed one,
yeah.
please, we'll
If
make an
anyone has
offer.
any knocking about the house, let me know. I'd love to take them off your hands.
There you go. Well, look, that's a nice way to finish off today. I reckon having a bit of shoe talk. I don't mind a bit of that. But that being said, like, what's before we check out? Anything going on for the weekend?
Armagh are playing tomorrow again, so we're actually heading down to that match. They play Derry tomorrow in Armagh, so going down to that with my sister and her husband, and Yeah, we're actually out this evening for a cousin's birthday. Um, one of my groomsmen at my wedding. It's his 40th, so we're actually out for some dinner and maybe a couple of drinks tonight for his birthday. So that'll be nice. What about you?
Yeah, nothing. I'm fortunate that we've got a bit of downtime this month. I've been saying to a few people, like we had a busy start to the year, and I feel like we're going to have a busy time over the next few months. So when we get a free weekend, it never stays free. We'll always go do something, but we just try and not to plan too much and just enjoy time with the little one, time out in nature. Trying to be better with that, mate, honestly, because it's not, I know, where you are potentially in Northern Ireland, in Lurgan, it's probably a little bit more uh, natural in terms of where you can go, whereas where we are, it's a lot of kind of nothing. In terms of the area, there's like Melbourne's not really that great for going for walks in the woods or anything like that. So we're trying to get out of our way to find more areas where we can just go to nature because you feel better, saves just sitting indoors all day, and it's good for the little ones. So try and get out to some national
Right.
parks, that kind of thing.
Lovely.
And yeah, I've got a very stressful, I guess, start to next weekend, final game of the Premier League, and
Yep.
it's
It's all to
down to
play
one
for
game,
for
mate.
Chelsea.
Mate, it's so stressful. It's
Yeah, I'm
so
glad I can
stressful.
sit back and just watch it and not be stressed about it.
Yeah, I mean, Liverpool have been absolutely shite since
Yeah.
winning the league. They're still
I
on a
think the
massive hangover.
lads have got a hangover. Yeah.
Yeah, whereas we like to cut it fine and potentially not even get results. So yeah, my mood next week will be sitting on the back of that. But
Good man. Well, good luck.
yeah, thank you very much. Well, look, guys, I think that's been a nice way to round things out. As always, we just want to say thank you for taking the time to listen, watch, like, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. And if you can spare a couple of moments just to share it, let's say you're listening to us on your run or your drive or your commute to work, and you're like, look, I'm enjoying this podcast. Luke and Adam, they're all right. Well, you can show us your love by sharing it with your mates because that really does mean the world to us. So thank you again, and we are looking forward to checking in and speaking with you guys soon. Thank you and take care.